Hello and welcome. Glad to have you along with us for 15 minutes. I'm Brian Salito with the Greater Columbus Chamber of Commerce, and joining me is Colonel Matt Scalia, the Garrison Commander of Fort Benning. Colonel Scalia, thanks for sharing 15 minutes with us.
Brian, absolute pleasure. Thank you.
It looks like you are not in your office today.
I'm not, and apologize for any, if it's not quite a impressive backdrop. I'm in my car, just got back from checking out some stuff here in Fort Benning.
Well, you're probably like a lot of us, kind of teleworking. I just can only imagine what you and your staff are having to do in these challenging times. How does teleworking and social distancing work in the Army?
You know, I think we're all trying to figure it out. As Garrison Commander, actually the majority of the people within the garrison are civilians. So we found a lot of our entities, a lot of our directorates have been able to telework. As I'm sure everybody's experienced, it was initially difficult. Did we have the right communication platforms, et cetera? But it's gone pretty well. But a lot of their directorates can't. And of course, our emergency services, maintenance personnel, public works, those are still people who have to come in. So we've minimized as much as we can, maximize telework, minimize the amount of people who have to come in, and that's the numbers have shown it. I mean, we're down about 25% of the normal traffic on Fort Benning is normal.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what does it look like traffic-wise on post? I assume it looks kind of like it does, as you all say, downtown. It looks kind of like a ghost town.
It does. You know, if I were to pick up the phone and if I didn't fear hanging up on you inadvertently, I'd show you a very empty parking lot. So people have been able to, again, make the most of it, and had to make some tough decisions. Even if they're not able to telework, but they're not essential to our operations, then best they just stay home.
Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you're experiencing. I know that a large part of the civilians and the military workforce, they don't live actually on post there at Fort Benning. Has that been kind of challenging through this whole quarantine environment?
It actually has been very challenging. We're always very proud, and we've spoken often, and other community leaders about how tight we are. Fort Benning with the community, something very proud of. So we always like to be in step with the community, but this is fundamentally different. So we still have our Army mission, our readiness mission. So driven by the Department of Defense, Secretary of Defense, and Secretary of the Army, and so we try to. We're still receiving new soldiers. We still have to train new soldiers and push them out to their first units. But there have been other drops in what we do here. So we're not, for example, receiving soldiers from other installations on their regular move cycle. That has been paused through June. We are not having soldiers come here for other training courses, or minimal at that. So there's been a large drop off in what we conduct. But with how we're tied with the community, as the services drop in the community, we've mirrored it very much here, because it's all about closing the vectors, minimizing those opportunities of contact and spreading the virus. So you come here. Yes, we have our commissary for groceries available. We have the post exchange for kind of standard shopping, but a lot of the restaurants have closed. Barber shops are closed, which for the Army folks is not me personally, doesn't bother, but it bothers a lot of others.
It bothers the others that with hair. I got you. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
I just go in the bathroom and knock it down, right?
I've offered to give anybody a haircut. I only give one style, though.
Oh my gosh. As Columbus, as you've probably been following, Governor Kemp has kind of loosened some restrictions on barber shops and nail salons, and Monday it was some restaurants. As this kind of deliberate phased reopening starts to occur, what does this pose as it relates to some challenges specific to restrictions that Fort Benning may have and is still under relative to those outside of the gate?
Yeah, and great question again. So it we would like to stay in step where we can, but because of our fundamentally different mission, we are not in this case. So we're keeping barbershops closed for the time being. We had a Facebook town hall yesterday, sat on with our hospital commander and installation commander, General Brito, and he actually has. We will reopen some outdoor recreational activities at the end of the week, hunting and fishing, which we had closed down. We will have the golf course opened for carry your own clubs, and no carts, no rentals. But this is just for people who can get on post. No visitors, no visitor passes for these recreational activities. So in that sense, we're looking at what we can do. But when it comes down to our mission here, our concern with is again in describing the vectors, if more is opening up outside the gate, well, we're concerned then our civilian workforce that lives outside the gate, will they be more at risk and bring that threat here on post? So for example, our dining facilities, the mess halls for our soldiers, those are civilian run, and we need them coming on. So we're concerned that this just might be an opportunity. But I know that all the local leaders understand this, and they're messaging the same as we are. We all have these individual measures that we must take that are paramount to success. So we're wearing the masks, we're keeping socially distant when we can, and any other mitigation measures we can take.
It is interesting in 2020 and really in years prior, the civilian or privatization of a lot of services that you all used to just take on as Army people. Like, you used to cook your own food and serve it, and now so there's, I'm sure the mess hall is just one instance in a pandemic like this. It shines a light on some of these opportunities for interaction with those that don't necessarily live on the installation.
Absolutely right. We've seen it in a smaller sense on, when there's inclement weather and icy roads, and so the general will shut down for mission essential only. Well, that includes the dining facility people, because we need to eat. And if necessary, if it's really bad, well, we have the MRE package meals, to hold us over for a meal or two. But this is a prolonged challenge we have. So our mission essential definition widens greatly. With respect to how we've contracted a lot of our services, from being military personnel to civilian, it's also a function of who we are. Here's Fort Benning. We are predominantly a training organization, a training installation. If you were to go to other places, Fort Bragg, North Carolina, Fort Stewart, Georgia, they're an operational force. Well, they have cooks as part of their soldier population for when they deploy, things like that. So part of it is just largely the makeup as a training installation.
Well, that's a good segue into my questions about training, and I can only imagine that, without speaking specifically about numbers, you touched on it just a little bit earlier about, I wonder how basic training even works in a pandemic, because you still have the need to train, right?
We do have the need to train, and this is something our senior leadership within the Army and Department of Defense have recognized. We cannot sit back. We do have a mission we need to be prepared for. So the dynamic is we're still receiving new soldiers from all over the country. So what do we do if they're coming from a hot spot? So they are checked. They are screened before they come. By the recruiter and at the MEPS station. It's kind of their clearing station where they get all their medical checks done, and then they're checked again once they get here. And then on top of that, they are put into kind of a 2-week quarantine, if you will, before we really get them out to training. So in a sense, an advantage we have are these bubbles. right? We have a bubble of Sand Hill where our infantry basic training or initial entry training occurs. We have a bubble on Harmony Church where the armor and cavalry initial training occurs, and they can keep themselves in the pockets of companies and not even contaminate, if you will, cross over with other companies. So protecting those bubbles is the strategy that these our commanders are taking, and we think it's been very successful. Now, what does the training look like? This is where they're getting very creative. They are able to train and keep social distancing, even eating. You know, they're not sitting at the tables anymore together eating. They're getting their food and moving outside and keeping spread out. So, you know, any way they can implement these individual mitigation measures, social distancing and masks, they are doing so. And we are very pleased with, you know, knock on wood, but we're very pleased with the success we've had so far.
Well, I know you've had a lot of experience as a leader, and good leaders are always looking at, you know, what can we learn from this? And I know we're kind of early into this, but do you have any takeaways, even initially, as it relates to, you know, how you're going to run things maybe from an emergency management perspective, from a training perspective? What have you learned so far?
So I think first the biggest lesson, and we've heard this elsewhere, was act fast early, and make tough decisions early. And so I think our commanding general did do that, and I think that has paid off. So, you know, and I think people recognize that. I think should this happen, or perhaps not if, but when this happens again, people understand those tough decisions early. Be more accepting of it. So that would be number one. Number two, in large organizations, or even small organizations, what's our capacity for teleworking? And you know, what are we really deeming as mission essential? And each situation is different. But you know, who can we have telework? Who do we really need to have come in? And then, you know, the other challenge we've had is anticipating the worst. What happens when we have an outbreak? How can we separate? What type of cleaning needs to occur? What's the protective personal equipment, you know, clothing required? Do we have enough on hand? Those are all, you know, good things, you know, for us to recognize now, this internal threat that we've never really faced before. But, you know, the question still lingers. We don't know what the new normal will be. Will we have more people teleworking? You know, will that be new practice? Will social distancing be the new norm? We just don't know yet.
Yeah, I'll get you out of here on this one. I know you speak with local leaders several times a week, and I know our associate pastor at St. Anne's said that there's no going back. We need to go through this together. And do you feel like this going through has strengthened Fort Benning's relationship with the Columbus region?
I absolutely think so. Those you know, we started off those community phone calls going about 3 days a week because the tempo of the threat and how things were changing was that fast. We've reduced it to once a week now, which I think is appropriate. It might pick up again, but just sharing the information, sharing of what we're thinking is the next tough decision to make, or decisions we've just made, how we're seeing the environment change, what are the challenges we're having, people not following the new standards, not following shelter in place or stay at home. So I think it's been great crosstalk, and certainly has, I think, certainly strengthened our relationship and respect for one another, quite frankly.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us for 15 minutes. Unfortunately, time flies, and that's all the time we have for now. But Colonel Matt Scalia, thanks again for your leadership and for spending 15 minutes with us. And we hope to have you along with us the next time for 15 minutes.
Right. Thank you.